All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our audio drama versus audiobooks panel. We're going to start everything off with a tiny little clip of a show from a title called Dungeon Crawler Carl, the Audio Immersion Tunnel. Just so you guys get a little taste of what we're talking about when we're talking about the extreme end of adding sound effects and music and a full cast to an audiobook experience.
Whoa! Two bolts shot out of Donut's eyes, one after another. They were like laser blasts from a sci-fi movie. I was so surprised that I almost fell backward. Instead, I just stumbled a little. I remembered she had that magic missile spell. The first bolt hit the rocky wall of the alley, sending bits of rock and smoke showering. The second was better aimed and traveled the length of the tunnel before splashing against something. It was too far away for me to see what it was, but the moment the missile hit it, a red dot appeared on my map.
Okay, there it is. Go get it.
Yeah, maybe next time wait until we know what it is before we start randomly shooting at it. What if that had been a person?
That's quite obviously not a person, Carl!
Shit. Shoot another missile.
In the moment the thing was lit up by the pulse blast, I could distinctly see what it was. I got a good enough view for the info box to pop up. Bad llama. Level 3. It's a llama, but it's bad. If he were human, he'd be covered in prison tattoos and would be hanging out in front of the Circle K hitting on 14-year-old girls. They might be willing to sell you something if you have good stuff to trade. You won't want to get hit by their spit.
Oh, God damn it, Donut!
I jumped back from the alleyway entrance. A red, baseball-sized ball of spit blasted out of the hallway and splattered across the floor. It sizzled where it hit, and the stones of the rocky floor turned crimson. Lava. The llama was shooting lava out of its mouth. I balled my fists. Mordecai had said my punches were more powerful than either of the weapons I had. But the idea of fighting a fucking llama with my bare hands was ridiculous. I had the fingerless gloves I'd received in a loot box, but they offered no armor protection.
You're gonna have to shoot it again!
I can't. I'm out of mana.
Didn't you just get a mana potion?
The damn llama was even bigger than I expected. It was as large as a horse. The creature had giant yellow buck teeth. It turned its scorched and tan-colored head to glare at me. One of its eyes had been blown off by the missile. Black and red ichor poured down the side of its face. It had the debuff Septic pulsing over its head. The powerful debuff was similar to poison. It worked faster, but it couldn't be stacked. And unlike poison, it could be healed with a simple healing spell or potion. The llama's health was already about 3/4 gone. Donut howled and leaped off my shoulder as the llama reared back to spit again. The thing's neck glowed. I hit it with an uppercut and a left hook right in the face. I felt bones crunch. My left hand exploded in pain, and I didn't know if the crunching bones were in the llama's face, in my hand, or both. Probably both. It unleashed its gob of spit just as its head turned away from me. I felt the heat of the lava ball sail over my shoulder. I stepped in and punched it again. A right jab directly in its glowing throat. The creature dropped like a sack of hammers. I jumped back as the fur and skin around its neck erupted in red flames. I had ruptured whatever the hell was in its throat that made the lava. The lava around its throat started to rapidly cool, filling the hallway with an acrid, sulfur-like stench.
Now that Granny's on her way to the nursing home, you get to sell her 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. There's just one problem. Granny's house is filled with all sorts of useless crap. Knickknacks and trinkets that weren't even cool half a millennia ago. Photos of you in your primary school band uniform looking like a chubby little troglodyte. Literal piles of shit from when she was too confused to find the bathroom in the middle of the night. And it all falls on you to clean up this mess. Instead of getting your hands dirty, leave it to the totally legal hybrid cleaners at Causewell's Cleaning Colossus. Our patented cleaning monsters are designed to devour debris and detritus for days. Causewell's offers several varieties of cleaners perfectly suited for any size job. Need to slurp up the excess sludge in your former flatmate's abyss of a room? We'll send one of our gutter gators to gobble up every last gulp of gunk. Gotta clear out a foreclosure home before you flip it for 400% of its fair market value? Order a trash panda. Yes, they're literally oversized pandas that eat trash to tear through every inch of the place until there's nothing left but walls and bare-ass concrete floors. Time to relocate your corporate facilities but don't want to bother with pesky moving fees? Forget all those headaches and hassles. Bring in Causewell's Cosmic Colossal Squid to inhale your entire building. Then file a planetary class hazard insurance claim and start fresh on some other poor unsuspecting world with a mountain of cash. No job is too big or too small. At Causewell's we consume it all. Don't delay. Call now. Causewell's Cleaning Colossus agents are standing by, ready to book your next cleaning appointment. Call 1-800-CLEAN-ME today. Use code MUDSKIPPER to get 15% off your first cleaning of any size.
Apply. All genetic hybrid monsters are certified by the Independent Council of Genetic Engineering. Causewell's assumes no liability for organic life forms devoured in the cleaning process. Full terms and conditions are available in our permanent storage location inside our Cosmic Colossal Giant Squid. Good luck finding them.
All right. So, that was the Dungeon Crawler Carl audio immersion tunnel, and we are Soundbooth Theater. Right there is the author, Mr. Matt Dinniman. We did the original audiobooks. We published those on Audible, and this audio immersion tunnel, which has been completely reworked. The script has been edited, and things have been added, things have been taken away, things have been reorganized a little bit to make a whole new experience, and those are going to be available on our platform, soundbooththeater.com. My name is apparently Jeff Ha-Yes. And I am the CEO of Soundbooth Theater. I'm also the lead narrator. I narrated Dungeon Crawler Carl. I played Carl and Donut and the AI on the program you were just listening to. And I'm going to the next slide. Sorry, you have to see my silly beard. I don't have a lot of good headshots that are updated, so we updated this one.
It looks like him, though, right? Hey, guys, I'm Emily Liebes-Royce. I'm our head of marketing and communications. I'm also the author of our first original audio drama.
Space puns.
And I am Aaron J. Morton. I'm the lead composer here at Soundbooth Theater, as well as a marketing specialist.
And he's the guy who made the song that you heard at the beginning and the song during the Causewell's commercial. So anyway, this is us. This is what we do. We do full cast sound effects and music, what we like to call cinematic audio, just because it sounds way sexier than just regular audio drama. But we're here to talk about the difference between the two things, the difference business-wise, the difference production-wise. We'll start with production, and we'll start just kind of going back over what audiobooks are for anybody who is not really sure about the production process. The most minimal viable product for an audiobook is one narrator reading the script word for word. A proofer takes a look or takes a listen, makes sure everything is done on script. They send that back to the narrator. They do retakes for whatever mistakes are made. Then we have a mixer and master. Make everything sound pretty, take out all the disgusting mouth noises that you don't usually hear in conversation because, we're not talking to each other this close. And then you have your product. That is a straight-ahead audiobook, but there is a spectrum we have discovered. And I discovered as I produced audiobooks through the ages. And when I first started, of course, I was just doing the narration myself, but then I would start adding little bits of sound effects here and there for comedic effect or just for the tiniest bit of extra immersion. I would compose the overture for audiobooks, put it at the beginning and the end. I just kept adding and adding more things as I got more and more antsy and wanted to, do more things, stretch my creativity a little bit more in my work, until finally I started the Soundbooth Theater company, and we started doing multicast stuff where ladies were coming in to do female voices, and we were having female narrators come in with male narrators backing them up with the male characters. And so gradually we started evolving as you can see, the Wayward Bard here is, actually narrated by our man here, Justin Thomas James, and he also produced it. He hired a violinist to do some of the parts in that book, since it is the Wayward Bard. And then we kept going. Justin also did the Alchemy Chronicles by James Baldwin, and for that he dipped even more into his talents. He actually did a lot of composition and sound effects for the first book, and he's been gradually adding more and more through the series as we've been going. And almost all the way to the cinematic audio side of the spectrum, we have Everybody Loves Large Chests, the notorious LitRPG series that I narrate myself and cause a lot of chaos with. And there's tons and tons of chaos the more you get into the series when it comes to music, sound effects, production. Get out of here, man. It's a scam. It's more spam. I don't understand. Leave me alone. Okay, so the last Everybody Loves Large Chests installment we produced, we had a cast of 8 people. We just keep adding more and more of our Soundbooth Theater folks into it, and adding just more assets, right? More sound effects and music. And then obviously what you just heard, the Dungeon Crawler Carl Audio Immersion Tunnel, is an example of our most extreme productions, where we just go all out and make sure that you're always immersed in the environment. You're always dripping with the disgusting things that you're hearing in the story as you listen. And it becomes a whole new animal at that point. So what are the differences in business between audiobooks and audio dramas? The answer is, it's kind of hard to tell. Audiobooks, of course, are much easier and cheaper to produce, much fewer variables to the production. There's the thing about adding more elements to any production is that every single one of those elements can ruin it. Yay! So if you want to do it, you have to be serious. Yeah, you can experiment at first a little bit with maybe some projects aren't going to get in front of too many people, but you really need to focus on making sure that there's balance between all the elements within the production, so it's much longer time, many more people on your team actually doing things to the product, and that means the budget skyrockets. Distribution, Audible isn't really the place to go to distribute audio drama, because one thing that sucks about WhisperSync is that sometimes the sound effects can up the inaccuracy percentage of your audiobook. So you can't kind of get those deals through WhisperSync sometimes. And of course, you get more reach through Audible, but the actual royalty rate is hard to justify when you're spending so much on a production. So as far as distributing audio drama, that's why we have our own platform. That's why we invested so heavily in ourselves and in our own market, so that we could publish the way we want to. The way we actually do our cinematic audio now is we'll take an audiobook, let's say Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon or Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we chop them up into episodes. Dungeon Crawler Carl's book 1 is chopped up into 8. We make the first episode always free so that you get the first taste for free, and hopefully we get you hooked. And then from then on, you have to buy each episode, and they come out bi-weekly at this point. We're doing bi-weekly right now. I think weekly would probably be optimal. We just don't have the budget and manpower to get it done quickly enough to hit that weekly goal. Maybe next year that'll change. We'll see. But we do that in order to keep the product in conversation amongst our fans. We want people to continue to anticipate the next book. I mean, the next episode. It's kind of the same principle as rapid release for publishing regular novels. If you're releasing on a regular basis, if you're releasing a new book every month or every 2 months, especially in the same series, it keeps promoting itself. The series keeps promoting itself, and people keep the series in their mind as it's going. So that's what we're doing with Cinematic, except we're dealing with smaller length products that are much higher production value. So short answer there, audio dramas, it's still an industry that we need to be blazing a trail for a market. So brief history of audio drama. I don't know if you guys knew this, but before there was TV, there was radio plays. And Mom and Dad and little Timmy would sit around the fire, and also the big-ass radio cabinet, and Dad would smoke a pipe, and Mom would be knitting, and there'd be a radio play going on. And actually, it's not usually a recording. It's usually people performing live in the radio studio. Doing these things, and that's actually pretty cool. I've performed audio drama live before on the stage. It's a blast. I would love to do more of it, but with the technology that we have now, we can make these productions so much more elaborate. But anyway, radio plays is where it started off. I'll keep going. We're gonna pass it over to Emily.
Yeah, so this slide covers like specific, like the formats, audio formats as a whole. And where it leaves off is kind of the most interesting part for us because it's where podcasting begins. And podcasting has really allowed for a really exciting return to audio drama. It started first kind of with news and nonfiction and discussion, but soon enough, people got back interested in the medium again.
Yeah. Absolutely. With the advent of MP3s and podcasts and everything like that, audio drama started to trickle back in. People have time to listen to things a lot nowadays, but they're busy doing other things. So that's why this pocket has sort of opened up for all of us audio people, because they can just be in the story, going through their day-to-day lives, getting other things done. They don't have to, stay up late and binge a Netflix series and not get enough sleep for the next day and fail at work or whatever. So that's our opening. That's how we're going to be able to reach people, is through those avenues where they're used. A lot of people are used to not paying for audio drama because there's a lot of the producers are relatively amateur, they have low budgets, and so they make everything available for free on iTunes and all the other podcast networks, and so it's hard to market to those people who are used to not paying for products. We got to figure out a different way, and I think that's why approaching it from the audiobook side, marketing to audiobook listeners is better, because they're already trained to buy the things that they want in that market.
So the first and most important thing to know about this slide is that our lawyer didn't sign off on it. So he's not seen it. I think he'd like it, though. As you'll see, though, really the key takeaway here is every contract is different. You got to really know your specific terminology. You have to know what your rights are. Again, always read the fine print. And when in doubt, ask a lawyer. I can't tell you how many times we've reviewed a contract and thought it looked great, and then our lawyer found something that we might never have thought of. So yeah, always Always good to play it safe. Oh, and read the indemnity clause. That doesn't have to do with rights. It's just good advice.
Okay, so one thing that we do, Soundbooth Theater, if any of you guys recognize us and know about our evil reputation, we do lots of multicast stuff. So what that means for the audiobook script is that if we're having somebody come in after the narrator to fill in their own character's parts, it becomes a real pain in the ass trying to find your lines within the text of a novel. So what we've started doing with almost all of our audiobooks is taking the script and separating out all of the dialogue from the narration. And as you can see, we're now using Excel to do it. I know. We went kicking and screaming. No, I was kicking and screaming. But it turned out it's a good idea. We're able to very easily make it clear whose part, what characters, and it's so much easier for our actors to deal with this than it is for them to dig through a novel.
But before there was that way, there was this way. And frankly, I don't know that I intend to stop doing it this way. So this was a format that we actually came up with in-house. As you can see, rather than doing line 1 at the beginning of the scene and counting all the way through the scene, we do go by page, so you can be like, line 7 on page 8, and it's a lot easier to find. We leave lots of space so the actors and engineers can take notes. You'll see I include a lot of direction both for sound and for the actors. Some people like that, some people don't. I'm really lucky that our team does like it because I'm a bit of a control freak, but you got to know who you're working with before you go too heavy on direction.
Yes, and by the way, the Excel method, we do have these extra columns. You can see these other colors here where we're able to describe, it's not in the script here, but we can describe things that we want, such as music, ambience, and sound effects, and sort of the way that this is set up, we can even basically give our producers an idea of the timing that we want. We want this happening simultaneously with this narration line. We want this sound effects to come in right here at the beginning of this person's line. It's pretty easy to notate time through Excel in this way as well.
So you, like 2 lines if you wanted smaller, like a beat?
I'm sorry?
So you did, some of those had 2 rows. Does that mean a longer beat?
No, that is a typo. Yes. If we have direction, there's actually one more column that is supposed to be between character and actor there that the actor can look at for direction. So, speaking of directing, that's basically a new role when it comes to audio. If you're going from audiobooks, you don't really, we're, as narrators, we direct ourselves. We read the whole book. If we're being good boys and girls, we read the whole book before we start to narrate. And so we can actually get a sense of what we want each scene to feel like, not just what to say. And the same goes with directing an audio drama, except there's so many more details to deal with. So directing is not just directing the actors, right? When they do our real-time sessions with us, we're able to get take after take until we get it right. So that part is hard. I've had to learn how to do that through trial and error. But you're also directing sound effects, music. You want to be communicating with your entire team all the time to make sure you're nailing it. There's so many variables. You have to be on top of it, and you have to have a clear vision yourself as a director. And it just so happens that the narrator is usually the person in this role because they're the ones who have read through the whole script. We can't pay our actors enough to read through the entire novel, especially when they have maybe one character in it. So the director has to be the one with that vision, and they have to keep everybody on task. So narration is still essential. in cinematic audio and audio drama, I believe, because budget. If you wanna illustrate everything with sound, you have to get really creative, and you have to spend a lot more time figuring out how to do that. And a narrator can be there to help guide the listener. Oh, that noise was this, But even more than that, especially for first-person narrative, it really helps keep the listener engaged. It keeps the listener in the head of the main character that's guiding you through this story. And so disposing of narration is something that you do at your own peril. It can be done, and when it's done well, it's pretty amazing. But narration is something that it's hard to get rid of. So remember, as a narrator, that if you're dealing with sound effects, music, ambience, the tone and everything, you want to be more fully engaged with those elements as well as you're narrating. Voice acting, of course, is how we get the characters to sound real and our conversations to sound real. You have to, as a director, make sure that people are engaged, your actors are engaged as well, and that they're portraying things very carefully. And voice acting is actually how you sell the sound effects themselves. The sound effects don't do well. You can't just listen to the sound effects and, oh no, you can't, you're not going to buy it, your listeners aren't going to buy it. The voice actors have to interact with the environment. Sound design, of course, is not just slapping sound effects in there. You have to be thinking, again, as a director, what kind of punch in the face is this? Is this Three Stooges punch in the face? It's a cartoon. Is is their skull caving in and brains going everywhere? It's very important, this distinction between punches in the face. And listeners will know the difference. And if you get the wrong one, it's gonna feel weird. So sound design is not just about having the library and throwing the stuff in. It's about carefully crafting the sounds that you place, adjusting them to be appropriate for the scene. And we have someone else to take over from here.
And as a general rule, when it comes to stuff like sound effects, there's also two approaches with that. We've got definitely action items, but we also have a very in-depth system of building environments. So every single scene actually has the kind of reverb that goes along with it. Right? We're in a cathedral. The dialogue with the voices, the actors who are in the scene, their voice is treated as if it's in that space. And then, as we go on and we build these places, there's ambient noises, but then there's the actual, obviously, the choices of sound effects that, is its own process of building that immersion. The next level is doing music. So a lot of you guys have probably seen movie scenes where the music has been stripped. It's like the end of Star Wars where they're doing the medallions, they're going down. It's all heroic, but if you're watching the movie and John Williams' score isn't there, it's just what's cool is when you're reading a book, you're pretty immersed, your imagination is taking over, but as soon as we have a medium like film or audio, the emotion benefits a lot from being backed up. Music can have a huge emotional impact on the listener and kind of help bolster and reinforce the material of the story. The other benefit is it also builds an extra sense of brand identity with the IP. As you've gone through this story and you have had these moments, these iconic moments in the story that you remember, a month later, after listening to this, you're humming that melody again, da, 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 and all of a sudden you're brought back to the story in a way that you would have never. Sentences in books can get stuck in your head, but earworms can get stuck in your head forever. And so we like to use that as sort of an extra benefit of building out these immersive experiences with music and like I said, we now the story is expanding out from just the written word into the next level of production and the next level of, what that story is. It's not just words anymore. Now it's taking new forms. let's see. Yeah, let's move on.
These are my favorite infographics in the history of infographics. I put them in every presentation. Basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about promotion here, and what I like about this is that it illustrates the three basic pillars of promotion. You've got marketing, PR, and advertising. So yeah, definitely grab pics of the slide, whatever, but the high level difference between these three things is that marketing is about crafting your message and getting it out there. PR is trying to get people to talk about your message positively, and advertising is paying to get your message out there. So you can make use of all three of these elements for both PR or for both audiobooks and audio dramas. So as Jeff was talking about earlier, it's been really interesting for us coming from audiobooks, looking for, kind of seeing the differences in the audiences, but there is overlap for sure. For audiobooks, most of the fans of the genres we do are on Facebook and Reddit. So that's where we make sure to do the lion's share of our promotion, as well as, our newsletter, our YouTube show, fun things like that. We're still learning where audio drama fans hang out. I've definitely seen some stuff on Reddit. There are Facebook groups that we need to be doing, frankly, a better job of, being proactive in. But Dungeon Crawler Carl has been a really cool use case because we've been able to see that a lot of people who had never been exposed to audio drama before dig it. They like it. And, I think we were nervous at first because there are a lot of the diehard purists who, really just like, minimal sound effects, if any, and one narrator, maybe two. But yeah, it's been really cool to be bringing audiobook fans over to audio drama, and we hope to be continuing to do that while also being able to reach out to that audio drama community.
Cool. So piggybacking off of that, so obviously there are two audiences. Like, there are audiences that absolutely, even if this is the best audio production, are going to prefer a regular audiobook. Fortunately, we do those too. But what's also true is that there is an audience, and largely an untapped one, that is into this medium. We put together just a little slide of some of our new fans. What I think is really exciting about this is the fact that at such an early stage of busting into converting audiobooks into cinematic audio, is that it's being so well received by such a big audience. That basically tells us, like, okay, the potential is actually really huge here. The possibilities of making more and more different genres and bigger productions and bigger teams and these productions that go on and tell more of these stories in this really in-depth medium, that has a future, and that there's a tribe out there that's just waiting for it. And that's the most exciting news we could possibly hope for, is that we're headed towards something. I don't know, I don't have our numbers, but we've just been building this app for the last couple of years, and we've got tens of thousands of users already.
52,000.
52,000, and that's very quick. And that's coming from, even our company hasn't been doing cinematic audio for that many years. We've been building this out very recently. Only in the last couple years have we hit like a pace on here's how we churn out an entire cinematic audio. So another thing that's sort of beneficial about this is if we take a look at the development of a story after publishing, at the end of the day, this is an adaptation. Now, it's not changing the story. The dialogue is basically there word for word, but we're taking out things like, he said, and like, he grunted. We can just, and go into the dialogue. This makes it a little faster paced, but what's great is Soundbooth Theater is coming in, and we are giving that book an entire new adaptation. Just like a movie adaptation or TV adaptation, it's giving the book another treatment. So it's putting it in another medium, and just like audiobooks themselves reach a non-reading audience, a cinematic audio experience also promises to reach people who are very into this very cinematic audio experience, who maybe don't want to just listen to a narrator or an audiobook in a standard format. Basically with this, you've got yourself a step towards a larger franchise for the story. And for an author, that's great news because you're expanding the IP. For a listener, that's great news because you get to enjoy that story you love all the more. Like you get to go back and like all these DCC listeners are doing, they're getting to relive Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's brand new because they've never heard this cast of voices. They've never heard these ridiculous moments live out. And there's it's not all singled down to just one specific angle of the genre. Obviously, Soundbooth Theater has a lot of experience in LitRPG and wider sci-fi and fantasy. But there are a lot of different applications that I think promise a really cool future in this kind of storytelling. All right, another benefit for you authors is if you partner with a production company like Soundbooth and a cinematic audio experience is created, you also now have 10 hours of material that can be used for promotion of the book too, because everybody knows book trailers suck. They're great assets, they're really important, but nobody likes them because it's really hard to get a story across in that little time. You know, you don't have the flashy montage of everything. What are you going to do? Say one word of each chapter in 30 seconds? But if you have something that has the sound effects and the music, and you can very quickly infer what is the energy and what is the spirit of this story. Now you've got tons of material for stuff like this that, once again, not only builds the audience for this medium, but also sends listeners back to the book. So you get tons of assets out of this. It's something that we use for all sorts of different things. And back to, in addition to it being its own adaptation, now there's a soundtrack, there's a music that is attached to this. There's an emotional connection that's being made. So, not every person is meant to, our goal isn't to sell everybody on audio dramas, but there are people out there that love this, and our job is to go find them. And so far, going really well. But that's sort of why we're exploring this and why we're finding success in it, and I think why it's such an exciting medium.
And that concludes our presentation. We have about 5 minutes and 40 seconds to get questions from y'all. Come on down to the microphone. Let us know what you want to know.
Okay, so my next project is a 100-story short story project based on Boccaccio's Decameron, which was set in 1347 in Florence during the plague.
Wow.
And so I'm planning on hiring individual actors who need to build a portfolio, and I also want interstitial music. So it would be like something that tells you which character is going to tell the story. So I don't have to, say the name of the character or in addition to. So I'm wondering, how do you decide, if you were doing this freelance, how would you decide what to charge?
Okay. Obviously that would be slightly different than the way we do it, because
Right.
During our productions it's very collaborative. I think if you're going to go find an artist, whether it's a composer or a sound designer or an actor, that really is going to be definitely up to them. It's going to depend on their portfolio and also sort of what they bring to the project. But if it was me, like what you would expect somebody like me to think about is sort of like the breakdown of how much material is being made for the project.
Right.
And how involved is it? If it's a ton of just piano stuff, then that's different than a ton of full orchestra. So it really comes down to finding that right artist and just having a dialogue with them. And then, typically, artists like us, we're not too hard to talk to. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I want to hire people that, might be losing work to AI. Are all the audio performers in your studio, or do
Nope.
you do distance?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just not practical. We'd love to, we love hanging out with each other, and the feeling of getting done with a project and being together with everybody and all that I think it's not just fun, but it also goes a long way towards everyone feeling invested in the project.
Well, and I'm
Right.
a former, just not doing it right now, director, actor, and that energy you
Yes.
get from people being in the same
Absolutely.
room is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we're going to do with season 2 of Dungeon Crawler Carl, assuming that we make enough money off of season 1 to justify doing season 2, is that we're going to start doing table reads. Basically, there's going to be a lot more complex scenes where there's more characters interacting with each other. With the first book, there's a lot of Carl and Donut meeting this person and then meeting this person along a track, basically. So it's really just me interacting with one other actor a lot of the time for this season. But for season 2, there's going to be a lot more, like lots of characters together speaking to each other. So having a table read sort of method is going to go a long way towards making the characters really feel like they're with each other and interacting. The way actors play off of each other it's night and day.
Yeah, you can't quantify it. Cool. I have one more, but I'm gonna let.
All right, yeah, we got like a minute and a half here, guys.
How do we submit to you guys for consideration?
On your knees.
Email acquisitions at soundbooththeater.com.
When somebody does submit to you, let's say you accept a submission, and what kind of decision process do you take it from there to decide where on the spectrum you want the book to be made as Soundbooth Theater, like whether you want it to be an audiobook versus an audio drama?
At the end of the day, number one, it's budget. If we know that the book is going to sell really well, that the audiobook has already sold well, I think that's the real way to go. Okay, this is good enough. We can make triple, quadruple sales because our audio dramas are more expensive than just buying an audiobook. Then yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do that. So
my question is, I've heard some lighter audio dramas on like podcasts and like on YouTube, and I was wondering what the financial comparisons are between like doing it for free for ad revenue, or as opposed to doing it on a pay-per episode.
that's hard to say. I think usually they're on shoestring budgets. DCC is going to cost us probably $100K to produce. So, it really depends.
So when you are in production, as we are making these multicasts, how often are you able to get everyone, if you're working remotely, working together, or are you able to get away with having all of their lines working together, or at least one actor laying it down, and are you then working off that? What's the usual method?
That's the usual method is one actor getting the whole thing done on their own and then everybody else contributing. But as I said, if we can get everybody together in the same room, that's the ideal situation. So thank you guys so much.
Year.
That's the end of the presentation. You guys have any more questions, we'll be hanging out